out to deep left field. Big fly for Mike Trout, 1-0 Halos. Ground ball to second base, Rendon falls down, picks it up, fires the first. The Angels have no hit. The Seattle Mariners. That is drilled out to left field. The Angels are going to have a 1-0 lead. Anthony Rendon with a big fly, his third.
Hey guys, I'm Alex Curry.
This is Joe Adele here with the Los Angeles Angels. This is Brandon Marsh.
This is Chris Rodriguez.
And you're listening to the All Angels Podcast.
Welcome to another edition of the All Angels Podcast. I am Dan Garcia and joined with
the curator.
And we are here at Halo Haven like we were last week in the beautiful Angel Stadium seats. So let's get this podcast rolling again. We're going to review this week this last series out in Texas against the Rangers. Not a great series when they were in Anaheim, so hoping to do better coming up this series. And it started on a good note, getting Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout back for this series. And I think we talked about it. The expectations are kind of high now because they're able to get these guys back in the lineup.
Yeah, it's a projected lineup that you want to see all together. You look like in the NBA trying to get like the big three all together and seeing them back and see what they could really do and kind of put together a streak.
Yeah, so those guys were back in the lineup. Again, Rendon coming off the IL. Trout getting hit in Houston, missed the last 3 games. Luckily never had to go on the IL, but he was back in the lineup. And Ohtani took the mound. And a little bit of history going with this game. Ohtani led the major leagues with home runs and started a game for the first time since
the Great Bambino.
That wimpy deer?
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. The Great Bambino. Yeah. Okay, I know who he is.
Yeah, exactly. So first time since Babe Ruth that someone either leading the league in home runs or tied with the lead in home runs is also starting a game. So that was kind of the history behind this start. And it just feels like every single time Ohtani takes the mound, some kind of history or some kind of first is happening for one reason or another. So let's get to the game. Obviously, like I mentioned, Ohtani was up pitching, but he got a little help early by Jared Walsh.
Jared Walsh
hits this ball into right field. That's a base hit. Ohtani in there with a slide.
So obviously, like you saw, Ohtani scores 1-0 after the top of the first. Ohtani takes the mound, and a lot of times when Ohtani takes the mound, you know, the control always seems to be the topic. How he controls the ball, how he walks, and all that stuff. And we were actually here watching the game that night, and got off to a little rough start.
Yeah, we're like, here we go again. Previous start, a lot of walks, walking the bases loaded. Last time when he got into that first inning trouble, he's able to pull himself out of it. But when you're down, what was it, 4-0?
Yeah.
4-0 in the first inning, and in years past, we didn't have like that firepower to come back.
Right.
So, and then he settled down.
Yeah.
And maintain control. A lot of chases. His chase rate was like through the roof.
Right.
So he rallied back and the offense came alive.
Yeah. So Ohtani, like you mentioned, gets in a little trouble in the first. He gets a single, a fly out, a walk. Again, that's kind of been his little bugaboo for a little while now. A walk, a home run that puts the game.
Bugaboo? You bugging me? You bugging you? Oh, okay.
There you go.
All right.
He gives up a home run. It's a 3-run home run now. It's 3-1. He walks another guy, hits a guy, a sac fly. So at the end of the first, it's 4-1 Texas. And he's at 29 pitches.
I think Ohtani just feels like he needs to make things just more interesting. Like I think it's just too boring out there for him. Like,
right.
Man, I could just go out there and do it, but let's make it more interesting.
Right. So after the first 29 pitches, and remember in this game too, he's also batting. So at any point they take him out of that lineup, you lose the DH.
Yeah, Madden, huge risk there, and it worked out.
It ended up working out.
And you brought that up before the game. You're like, okay, the DH spot, and I have to fill that, and you put yourself in a big hole.
Yep.
Having pitchers that you have to hit and things like that, and but it worked out, and Madden looked like a genius.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Mad
Madden. I love it.
Exactly.
I love the unorthodox approach for sure.
So he, like I mentioned, 29 pitches in the first inning. What were you thinking at that point?
Oh, I'm thinking it's a 2-inning game. Calling Chris Rodriguez in the third,
right,
exactly. And but we talked about that. Like his pitch count leveled off like really quick. He had a couple innings like less than 5, and
later
and it looked just like a normal pitch count. Actually, I think it was actually low.
Right after the third inning, his pitch count was like at 39. We're like, oh wow, that's all of a sudden now
he's
like
almost
manageable.
averaging like a little bit over
like
10.
12. 12. So that was great.
Which is good.
Yeah, and so he ends up helping himself in the second with this play right here.
In the first inning.
0-1 pitch is rocked into right field. That's damage, and 2 of those runs come right back.
So it's always nice when you're a pitcher and you can help your own cause, hitting a single that scores 2. So now it scores 3-4. A little more manageable as far as you're not having to make a huge comeback. But I mean, that's something you see every day. A pitcher helping himself out like that.
Yeah, and he crushed it. What was the exit velo on that?
Oh, your favorite word, velo. It was like 113.
Dude, it was like ridiculous, right?
It was good. It was good. And then right after that, this guy comes up and ties the game.
And Trout sends a ball out to shallow left field. Coming on is Dahl, and he's able only to trap it. Scoring from second is Ohtani.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
So, yeah, exactly. Trout ties the game now at 4. And so all that, worry that we had after the first inning when it was 4-1 is gone completely. And we you mentioned it too, the lineup, this is what you expected from the lineup that could score runs that quick.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Having those guys even deep in the lineup, like
right.
I feel like this is the deepest 1 through 9 that we've had in recent memory. When you got someone like a Glacius, up on the back end, knocking in some runs, going deep, and even with Stassi back too,
right? And
Stassi's putting up. We'll probably get to it in a few, but Stassi's putting up like JT, Real Muto numbers who just got paid.
Right, exactly.
And we got a guy who's fairly similar and he's not getting paid. We swooped that dude up from the Astros a couple years ago for next to nothing.
Right. A little trade here and there, nothing too crazy. But another guy that's been really helping out the lineup is Justin Upton. And then in the third, he does this.
Leads things off in the Angels half of the third. A high, deep drive to left, and the Angels have gone back out on top.
Exactly. Upton puts him up by 1, but that lead didn't last quick, or that amount of a lead didn't last quick because Albert came up right after him and went back to back.
Albert sends a drive well struck out to left center field, bidding for back to back.
Wow. Albert 667 career home runs.
So yeah, Albert hit 667. And batting 7th, when you have Upton, and I believe he's batting 7th, having Upton and then Pujols batting 6, 7 in your lineup. Granted, they're a little bit older. Granted, you're probably not going to get like the batting average and on base as high as like obviously like in their prime, but it's kind of shown that these guys can perform at that kind of lower level, but be a solid like 6th and 7th guy in the lineup.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you have someone like Justin Upton, who is a perennial star. And you're not even counting on him to produce. And then when he produces, you're like,
yes,
that's just like that, that cherry on top.
Exactly.
And then you have Pujols, who I saw a comment today, I think it was from Madden, who said he's like a Benjamin Button.
Oh,
so you're seeing that movie.
I want to go that far.
I don't know. He said it right. He's like a Benjamin Button. He's getting better with age.
Yeah,
he's starting to become younger again. And we were talking about that during the game. Like,
yeah,
he looked pretty solid. He hit that one deep, and then he almost went deep again
later. Yeah.
So I don't know. And do you
know why?
I don't know. I'm not an Albert apologist in any
contract year.
Anyway, yeah, contract year. He's trying to get that 1-year extension with
exactly.
incentives.
Somewhere,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it's contract year.
And it's funny though too, because we kind of talked about a little bit during the game. Is like, what if he does put like a legit 25 home run, 80 RBI type of season
like
together,
275 average,
right? I mean,
like
yeah, or
don't get crazy here.
Yeah, something like that. Like, does someone take a flyer on him next year? I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's gonna be the Angels. I doubt it's gonna be the Angels, but that's something that'd be really interesting if he does continue to perform,
especially when you have that 700 home run milestone.
Oh yeah, and whatever team.
So you're guaranteed that he's gonna get within
bobbleheads.
Yeah, we're gonna yeah, for sure.
For some team, like, I don't know if it's going to be the Angels, but
I think it's got to be the Angels or Cardinals.
Right.
I just don't see anything in between.
He's doing it with like Milwaukee,
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that'd be Miami. He's down from there. So, anyways, so the third inning still wasn't over yet when Mike Trout comes up with this RBI hit.
Mike Trout will be the next hitter. Swings at this pitch and lines this one over the head of the left fielder Dahl. Angels will get 1 run. Another RBI hit for Mike Trout.
So he doubles in Kurt Suzuki to make the score 7-4. And oh, by the way, he missed the last 3 games, but it did not look like it at all.
He's like Texas Walker, Mr. Ranger kind of thing, man. He crushes the Rangers. We saw the stats if you're watching any of the games.
Yep.
They kept on throwing him up there. He's like basically batting 500 lifetime against this team, especially this year. He's crushing it. I think it's most home runs against like a Texas team like in modern baseball history.
Something like
when
that,
you combine like the Rangers and the Senators together, like he's right up there, I think, with Reggie Jackson. So and you saw that ball. Talk about exit velo.
There you go,
dude.
Chris is gonna come around to that. I
hate the velo word.
By the end of the season, Chris is gonna use it.
I hate the velo. Normal. I hate all that stuff. But then, because I saw that ball, I'm like, why doesn't he? Why doesn't he get to second or what was it? Like he didn't, and he's all that ball like was a rocket, and then all of a sudden Gooby goes on and he goes, exit velo. There's no way he can.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's going too quick.
God,
yep, exactly. Me and Gooby on the same way.
I know.
There you go. So that all happened in the 3rd inning. So at the end of the 3rd, Angels are now up 7-4, and that was a really quick turn from the 4-1 deficit they had in the 1st inning. It seemed like it happened really quick, but the bats were firing on all cylinders. Again, Trout was back and he was performing. But like you mentioned, Ohtani would end up settling down after that rough 1st inning. He ended up going 5 innings pitch, only giving up 3 hits, 4 earned runs. Again, that's all in the 1st inning. 2 walks, again, 1st inning, end up striking out 9. His pitch count was 75, so you thought he would have gone a little bit longer in the outing, but reports came out afterwards that I guess they used quote unquote a hot spot started to develop on his finger, and obviously with the blister issues, didn't want to push that too far, so took him out after 5, but was in line for the win, and obviously he got his first win since like early 2019, which is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, I don't remember this, but Nolan Ryan threw over like 220 pitches in a start and went like 12, 13 innings. So
yeah,
I have no compassion.
Yeah, I got a feeling there's a lot of those kind of
it's modern day baseball. A lot of
Nolan Ryan type of Nolan did this back in the day kind of deal. So yeah, so he went 5 innings, good outing, something you can definitely build on. It just seems like after that 1st inning, he settled down. Now does this not even give him that 1st inning, because a better team might not give up 7 and bring you back into the game,
for sure.
So Ohtani was done after that, but the Angels were not done scoring after that when you have Walsh coming up in the 6th.
Here's Jared Walsh.
Well hit to center field. Garcia back, and he'll play it off a hop. Ohtani comes in to score.
And Walsh, again, we were talking about, Pujols and Upton, Iglesias. Walsh is, sneaky. I talked to some people that are more like baseball fans in general, not necessarily Angel fans, and he's still not kind of like on their radar, but Angel fans know what this guy did at the end of last season, and it seems like to really starting to bleed over to this year, and that just, again, adds so much depth to this lineup it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I feel like if you went over to the East Coast and you did like a Jay Leno kind of like street walking segment but you went outside like a baseball stadium and you said, hey, y'all know Jared Walsh? And no idea, right?
Well, I feel like they say, you ask them, who's the Angels, first baseman? And they're
Albert Pujols for sure.
Yeah, and then the only reason really why Albert has been playing so much first base is because Walsh is out in right field.
Yeah.
If that outfield's completely healthy and Dexter Fowler never has the injury he had, you might not be seeing Pujols that much, which when you think about it, it's pretty crazy because he is doing really good this year.
So it might be actually a blessing
in disguise. And Walsh, as far as the games I've seen, and I've pretty much seen all but maybe like 1 or 2 games, Walsh hasn't had like a defensive blunder or anything like that that absolutely stands out.
Now look at, I hate to say it, but if you look at Joe Adell and you look at Jared Walsh, Jared Walsh has been pretty solid.
Oh yeah. Making all the routine routes, making all the routine plays. I think that's the biggest thing. Making the routine plays and getting the routine outs, and not, obviously
his throwing arm's decent.
Right.
There's been a few plays of the play just not really contested, but
right. But making the standard plays, gets underneath the ball, makes the out, cuts off a ball from going to the wall. So now you're holding him to a single kind of deal. He's making those traditional plays, and he's not going to wow you with his speed or anything like that, but he's doing a good enough job in right where Albert can get some first base at bats, and you're not going to lose a bat.
And we're talking about like Walsh, how he kind of was like a rising star that nobody really counted on. When you look at all the prospects, you had like a Theis and
Ward for a little bit. And I know he moved away from first base, but
yeah, a lot of those guys, like those were they're supposed to be the build as like a first baseman of the future, and then Walsh just kind of slipped in there, and I think he kind of got on the track with that kind of two-way ability.
Yeah, but he stopped. I mean,
and that's not going to probably happen again.
No, because he stopped last year because of a shoulder injury. So they said, okay, we're just going to let you bat and focus on that. So that might have been, and even too, in the last series against Houston, they had him on like that YouTube. I didn't like that YouTube thing, but they had him like pregame on that YouTube game, and they talked to him about it, and that's one of the things they brought up was, are we going to see you pitch again? And he even says like, I seriously doubt it, because if he was never that guy like Ohtani, you have big expectations pitching wise out of him, and that was never the deal with Walsh. It was always going to be a guy that had like mopped up duty or low leverage guys that can just eat up innings out of the bullpen. It was never like he's going to be the closer or anything like that. So, Walsh two-way playing days I think are done, but offensively it seemed like to help him.
Yeah.
So obviously with the September last year, him just absolutely blowing up. So we're still not done yet with this game, because Iglesias ends up getting his second home run as an Angel late in the game.
Off in the seventh inning for the Angels.
Next delivery, this is hit well and lifted deep out into left center field, and it is out of here, right into the Angels bullpen in left center field. Third homer of the night for the Angels.
So yeah, second home run of the year for Iglesias, third home run of that night for the Angels, and it just seems like the offense was absolutely rolling. Like I mentioned, Trout, first game back in 3 days, he goes 4 for 5, 2 RBIs and a double, and the Angels win this rather easily, 9-4. Honestly, was one of the better games offensively that I've seen, and probably since that Minnesota game where you had the Upton grand slam and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was just a complete game.
Yeah,
we're doing everybody was contributing.
Because you can look at that, if you get past that first inning, it's an absolute shutout. They don't get anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, the bullpen did great. Ohtani settled down. You got your offensive production. Great win again by the Angels out in Arlington on Monday. So now we roll over to Tuesday. And Tuesday is a kind of a whole different story for a lot of different reasons. Jose Quintana was on the mound after a good start against Texas at home. So he's facing them again on the 20th. Last time he faced him was on the 21st. And so you're kind of hoping he'll be able to duplicate it. He got went like 5 innings, only gave like 1 or 2 runs. So it was a good outing. Not great, to say the least. I know a lot of people are going to probably talk about the umpiring behind home plate in this game. There was I forgot what Twitter account grades these umpires. Missed calls was like 80-something%, like 84%. And then the league average is 96 or 94, something higher like that. But the consistency level that he was calling those bad calls was up to like 96, 98. So it's almost like, yeah, he was bad, but he was consistently bad. And the Rangers definitely took advantage of it that game.
Yeah, and as an MLB player, which I know nothing about, but at a lower level, if you know the guy and you start to see a pattern, the guy's calling the outside strike, then you need to start swinging at that. And that zone expanded. And so that's something that you need to make that adjustment, especially if they're consistent. It even gets worse if you're just terrible,
right?
And you're inconsistent. So, hey, I don't know.
Yeah, but and that's the thing. He was super consistent, but it just seemed like the Angels pitchers couldn't take advantage of it, because it did seem to me watching that game that the Rangers knew it. They would take advantage of it. They would throw the ball outside, and it was like a ball and a half outside, but he would get the called strike. And now as a batter, you're thinking to yourself, it's a huge strike, so I have to swing at that. So now you're having a lot of pitches that are being rolled over or just not a lot of contact. But when the Angels came up the pitch, it honestly didn't seem like they were even trying to hit that like outside edge and put the guys down 0-1. And where the Angels were consistently down 0-1, it seemed like, because they took advantage of that wide strike zone, the Angels didn't. But Jose Quintana would give up a home run the first, home run the third, RBI single in the fourth, and he would be done after 3 1/3, giving up 6 hits, 5 earned runs, only 2 strikeouts. But I think the biggest thing in this game to me was the offense not producing. You get hits, but that's about it. They were 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position, had 9 left on base. Pujols with the only RBI in the game. So again, a lot of people complained about the umpires, and I totally agree with it because I was watching the game, but at the end of the day, it was just the Rangers knew how to take advantage of that situation, and just did not seem like the Angels pitchers either thought about maybe expanding the strike zone a little bit, because I mean, when they miss, in the middle of the strike zone. So I mean, it doesn't matter what your zone is. If you miss in the middle of the strike zone, bad things happen.
Nah, we just throw strikes, right?
Yeah.
So the Rangers feasted on that because they're out of the zone.
I mean, that worked out for the Rangers, not so much
Right.
the Angels. So Angels end up dropping this Tuesday game 6-1. So now you have to win. Wednesday to get a series win. And again, when you're on the road, that's what you need. You need at least a split or a series win. And with a 3-game series, obviously a split wasn't going to happen. But the good news is, or at least you thought the good news is, Alex Cobb was on the mound because he had a bad outing last time, but you kind of figured, kind of like Bundy, at least this was what I thought going in, being like Bundy and rebounding and having a good start. So you had Alex Cobb on the mound Wednesday against the Rangers. He would get some early help from Rendon, who had struggled since his return, but it seems he got out of I think it was a 0 for 14 slump up to this point, and he does this.
3-1 to Rendon. He shoots that into right field. It's going to bring in at least one. A second run being waved around. Throw on Walsh is not in time. It's 2-0 Angels.
So exactly. Rendon, 2 RBI single. Angels are up 2-0 after the top of the first. Sorry. And you're thinking, okay, cool. Here comes his offense. The different home plate umpire. He's calling a better zone. These guys are actually being able to get chances to hit. And then Iglesias ends up doing some more damage and
thrown for a strike tonight. And that one's lined into left. Walsh scores. They're going to wave Rendon around. Throw to the plate is not in time.
So you're thinking, okay, cool. 4-0 after the top of the first. Offense is clicking again. You're thinking you're going to be able to, add on to this lead. Not so much. Cobb would give up 1 in the first off a soft contact, and granted, Cobb did give up a lot of soft contact on his hits. It's just, I don't know. It just seems like the Angels have been bitten by that a lot this year so far. Soft contact in the gaps or soft contact in front of the outfielders.
Yeah, I forgot who said it. It was some MLB great. I want to say Yogi Berra, but they say, something you say, hit them where they ain't.
And that's exactly
and that's pretty much like you have a shift, nobody on the left side, and then you hit a ball to the left, that would have been easily caught by third or short. And then Rendon has to go out, almost makes a remarkable play, but stuff like that. So I wouldn't blame Cobb completely. And I heard Cobb's interview, post-game interview, and obviously he's a competitor. He doesn't want to get taken out, but he understood it and he respects Joe's decision. And he kind of talked about like getting into it, like if he didn't pull him, are we going to win that game?
Right, exactly, because even though you're up 4-0 going into the bottom, you did give up the 1, and then in the second, Angels didn't add anything on the top. In the bottom of the second, he gets in some more trouble, gives up 4 hits, including a double, and even 2, except for that double, again, all soft contact. And now you're looking at a 4-3 game after 2, and with a day off today, as we're recording Thursday, what do? You you're going to have that extra day that's the rest of the bullpen, or rest, everybody. And for that matter, Joe makes a quick switch. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, Joe makes the mad scientist, I guess, going back to the first game of the series.
I think he just knew Cobb didn't have it. And I think Cobb said it. He said his splitter wasn't moving. Yeah. I think it wasn't splitting, but it was just moving like left to right instead of like top to bottom.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of hanging up there, and they were all over it. So it wasn't like I wouldn't say it was like a bad performance. Like he didn't get rocked,
right?
Like, oh my gosh. But Joe just like, when your guy's flat and going back, right. He knows Alex Cobb a little bit more than most
because of the time.
Yeah. So I think he's just like, this isn't him. Let's get him out. Put in C-Rod and as much as Alex Cobb doesn't want to,
come out,
he doesn't want to say it, but like if he didn't make
who knows what would have happened exactly.
Could have lost that one. So
so Cobb goes 2 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, and like we mentioned, pretty much besides that double, he gave up a double in the first and double in the third. But besides those 2 pitches, everything was pretty soft and everything was not bad.
And then kind of on the other side of things, Texas left their starter in, who gave up more runs than Cobb. Looked terrible,
and he settled in. I think he went
the
like
first inning,
6, 7 innings.
He settled in. Was it Danny? I forgot what his last name is.
Dunning or something.
Danny Dunning, former first-round pick. They recently acquired by the Rangers, but he settled down, looked pretty good. But it's funny, he actually outlasted Cobb.
Right, you would think with the first inning, with the first inning going the way it was, you thought it was going to be the absolute opposite. Sure. So you kind of mentioned it. Chris Rodriguez, fan of the podcast, comes in the third, and again he great. He goes 3 1/3, giving up 1 hit, 1 walk, only 1 strikeout. It's only $1 for the Tyler Skaggs Foundation, but I'm sure he'll add to that later on this weekend. But like I mentioned, 3 1/3, his career high. Obviously, small career, but career high lengthwise. They kind of stretched him out. Seems like a little bit more of this, but another friend of the podcast, Red Bollinger, wrote in his piece for that night. He's turning into the ace of that bullpen really quickly.
Yeah, and you think about it, like, it would have been nice to see him go in there and K like 9 or something in 3 innings, right? That's pretty sexy. But when you look at the ability to get people out, get the ground balls and stuff, that's actually more impressive than the strikes out low, because when you're not even on, when you're not like completely on, you're still getting people out, and that's what you want to see. So it's pretty incredible. Angel fans, you should be excited about this guy. I feel like this is a starter of the future, and I think he will have a starting role by the end of the season.
Ooh, by the end of the season?
You can book that.
Wow. Okay. We'll reevaluate.
We'll
reevaluate it, and if it's true, we'll replay it, and if it's not true, we'll just absolutely forget it.
We'll act like this didn't exist, and people will forget anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So, I kind of think we'll do it next year, but I mean, again, at the end of this year, if they feel comfortable with him, I do think they do need to get him around that 125 innings pitched total to kind of stretch him out as to be a starter like long term.
Yeah, I will say the argument against it is he just hasn't pitched the last few years due to injury, trying to rehab last year.
So the last 3 seasons in minor leagues, he has a total of like 72 innings pitched. Yeah. So obviously he doesn't have a ton of innings on his arm. A guy coming out of high school, it might be different too if he was a college guy that pitched a lot in college and maybe just had bad luck in the pros. You would think, okay, that arm has done that kind of work, but it hasn't because he's coming from out of high school. So that's why I'm not sure if he'll start at the end of the year, but I do think they need to get his his innings up to like 100, 125, somewhere around there by the end of the year. So you feel more comfortable for him starting next year in 2022. And that'd be crazy.
Kind of like the role he jumped into yesterday is it's something that when you're coming in the second inning, you're usually down.
Yeah.
Like you're usually getting
lit
up. There's like 8 in the first. You're almost down 10-0, so we're an innings eater at that point,
right?
And you just throw in whoever, long relief. But no, he came in in a high leverage situation, and then picked up his second win?
Yeah, his second win of the year. It's actually his second.
Is that a team leader?
Yeah, right. It feels like it. He might be like in the top 3 for sure.
I think he's up there.
But his second win, his second appearance. Again, went a 3 1/3. Rest of the bullpen did great. They went obviously 3 2/3, only gave up 1 hit, 3 strikeouts. And then Myers comes in for the hold in the 8th, and then Iglesias comes in for the save in the 9th, and that's exactly how you want to play it out, for the season.
For sure. Yeah.
So that was that game. Angels win, obviously 4-3. After that first 2 innings, who would have thought the game would have ended 4-3 because of all
that offense
and everything like that. Yeah. But something to mention too, before this game, Stassi did get activated, so now he's back in the lineup, back behind home plate. So again, you're slowly getting this team healthy at the right time because Mariners are coming, or they're going up to Seattle, and then when they come back, they have Tampa Bay and LA in 1 week, and that's going to be a really good. Well, even Seattle too is going to be a really good test for the Angels, and we can see where this team strengths are and weaknesses are against teams like that, because obviously Seattle second place right now. I think they're a half a game. They won today. They're half a game up on the Angels for second place in the division. But you have the Rays and the Dodgers, who a lot of people, if not everybody, has picked both of them to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
So again, that was the series winning victory 5-3 in Arlington against the Texas Rangers. And, obviously they're going to be up in Seattle starting a 3-game series on Friday. And we'll preview that a little bit later with a special guest, but we're going to take a quick break right now. And when we come back, we'll have the Curators Chronicle. So hold on real quick.
Let's go! Batter up! We're taking the afternoon off. It's a beautiful day for a ball game, too.
It is truly a beautiful day for a ball game, except for the Angels are off today.
It's warm too.
It's warm.
It's warm in Southern California.
It's starting to feel like spring's and summer's approaching.
Right.
But it's the Curator here with another edition of the Curators Chronicles. As you know, we look at different memorabilia, things that add to the absolute fandom of the greatest team in MLB with one championship. It's okay. We still will stand firmly on that fact. But today we feature something that's a little bit different. And one thing that we've always prided ourselves in Halo Haven and the All Angels podcast is that we like the fan-sided approach. We like things that are created, they're organic.
One of a kind of stuff.
Yeah, kind of stuff that you can't go buy at the gift shop. It's not mass produced in China. It's something that's truly original. And we like being part of that community, building partnerships and doing collaborations and whatever it may be. And so we were blown away by something that was presented to us that kind of came out of the blue. We made a mention almost a year ago, and it was kind of like, hey, you should do this. And then fast forward a year later, someone hit us up and said they had kind of a fan creation and a tribute. And so we met up with someone known as the baseball artist. His name is Jose Ceja, and he came over to the Haven
Monday night.
And we hung out, kind of talked baseball for a while, but we knew a presentation of a gift, which is incredible. I never thought we'd be in that position where people were presenting a gift to us. And
to be fair, he mentioned it. He's like, yeah, I should mention, I have something to give you guys. That's why I want to come over. Like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so we were trying to figure out like a time to meet up. And then, so he drove all the way out from Santa Ana on a Monday night. And so we really appreciate that. And beyond that, this guy has true talent. And what he does is he creates tribute balls. So it doesn't always have to be a major league player, but it could be someone like your dad for Father's Day or something like that. But he hand draws.
Yeah.
Sketches baseballs. Yep. And it is incredible, as you're going to see in just a moment. And so we were just blown away by his talent, and he's done some collaborations with professional baseball players. Just to name a few, I know he's done like a Jaime Barria, a Keenan Middleton. He's also done a Fergie Jenkins, Hall of Famer.
He's done quite a bit.
Yeah, so it's just the list goes on. And so we're so honored that he was able to give us this ball in tribute to Halo Haven, the All Angels podcast, and more importantly, in memory of our late friend and brother Jonathan Magdaleno. So he came over here, he presented this ball. We were just, I don't know about you, I was like, I knew what was coming, but I didn't know what was coming until you actually saw it and felt it. And so if you're watching online, you're going to see that ball right there.
Yeah, we're on YouTube
and look how
Facebook and our Twitter.
It's incredible, the likeness and the detail that he put in to this baseball. And so he takes commissions. He's pretty popular, so it takes a little while. But if you go to www.thebaseballartist.com, he's also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff.
The Baseball Artist on Instagram. From there, again, he'll have his website link there. You can DM directly from there to talk about what you want, what you're interested in. He'll give you a price. I'm not going to sit here and say that we know exactly the price, because I don't want to be like, oh, well, they told me there was this much. So
use promo code.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have that yet, but definitely give him a look. If you're interested, definitely reach out to him, see what he can do. I know because he kind of mentioned it here, he is getting kind of bombarded with a lot of requests right now. So The wait is a little bit long, but just like anything in life, if you're willing to spend a little extra, you can get a little rush order on it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and just looking around, like, what's in the garage and things like that, like signatures of this player and that player, like that stuff's cool, but there's nothing as meaningful as this. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just like a one of a kind piece, and I just think that's what it's all about. So if you have a loved one, if you have a favorite player, whatever it may be, he's your guy.
Oh, absolutely. And then too, go on his Instagram. He has the pictures of all the stuff he's done. Like you mentioned, he's done baseball players from different teams. He's done family. He's done, even with Alex Curry, she had a dog that passed away. They even put a family pet on there. So pretty much anything you can think of, anything you have an actual picture of, he can throw it on a baseball. And the work, I mean, you can see it again. We're on our YouTube, our Facebook, or on our Twitter, but even the photos from there don't do it justice, because we saw a lot of his work before he came over and we kind of understood what he did. But when he actually gave us the ball and we're actually kind of look over it, it's like you have to kind of look over it 2 or 3 times, because each time you do, there's another like detail that you did not see the first time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the ink pops.
Yeah,
and the ink, like when we took the case off, it was just like, whoa, the ink was there. So yeah, this guy's incredible. He also, I think he thought from like our post that John was a big
Periwinkle
fan of the Periwinkle, the Disney era, which he was totally not. So
but if you're a listener,
funny.
if you listen to this podcast for a while, you
know that.
And
right?
then what I told him too, it's perfect, because for the podcast listeners and the Halo Haven followers, you know this about John. So it's kind of like an inside joke between us. It's like an inside joke between our followers and our listeners. So I told him, I was like, every time I see that thing now, I'm gonna give it a little chuckle, because the fact that he's in a Periwinkle uniform and a Periwinkle hat, he would never have done that. And the fact that we got him on
now, he's immortalized on a ball that's gonna always be here, looking for like a rotating case to go around.
Exactly.
But it's gonna be periwinkled out.
Yeah, and his wife saw that, and she thought it was funny too, that because she obviously knew his quote unquote love affection with Periwinkle, and it just actually worked out great. And again, check him out at the Baseball Artist on Instagram, www.thebaseballartist.com. But all that stuff you can find on his Instagram. Check it out.
This guy's about to blow up,
right? And he's
so like you're gonna get in on the early end. Whatever the fee is, it's completely worth it. There's nothing you can't put a price like on, like hand drawn skill.
Like you mentioned, it's one of a kind. It's one of
a
kind.
And the hours he must have put in,
right,
are incredible. It's an incredible amount of time. So I think it's a steal. But check him out and to follow him.
Exactly.
Give him a like. Get something commissioned. Be patient. And add to your collection.
Yeah, definitely one of a kind. Definitely something that you will want to put in a case and have it, front and center wherever it is, whether it's in a man cave like this or your front room, living room, wherever. It's definitely one of a kind. So definitely give him a shout out again. That's at the Baseball Artist on Instagram. He has all his information there. Definitely check it out.
But if you are watching live, yes, this is a Palm Springs Angel actual game worn jersey. I think you're probably wondering that, but I'm wearing a hat that accompanies it. But the PS with the palm tree, classic as they come.
Exactly.
My the California Angels minor league affiliate for many of years, from the early 80s through early 90s. So Tim Salmon, all those guys came through Palm Springs.
A lot of O2,
and also the spring
guys.
Training site for many years,
until
they moved to Tempe.
Let me ask you this. So when they were in Palm Springs and they had spring training there, obviously there wasn't a whole lot of teams around them then, right?
No, they had to travel from Arizona.
Or from Palm Springs to Arizona?
Or Palm Springs to Arizona. So like a team like, I think the Giants were out in, what's way out there? What's past Tombstone?
Oh, like Tucson or something like that?
Tucson, right? Tucson Giants were a team. So you have to go from Tucson all the way to Palm Springs just to play a spring training game. So
sounds like the Grapefruit League.
It sounds absolutely terrible. And that's why they made that transition out to Arizona. But spring training in the old days, which I never got to enjoy or be a part of or partake in, it was so relaxed. Like you could just walk up from what I heard and you see like someone like Nolan Ryan or whoever, and it was just so casual. And it's like, oh, here's a bat. Here's this. The Tokyo Giants came and scrimmaged, and they're Sadahara.
So that's probably one of the things too.
Just throwing out stuff, and it was super chill. And then we think spring training is like still that, and it's become so much more corporate.
In the last 3 years,
it still has maintained that for the most part.
The last 3 years it has, because I remember our first time out there as Halo Haven, even before we started the podcast with Johnny, it was like that. I felt like you had that feel to it where it was like real intimate, and you can go up to players, stuff like that, and then you can gradually start seeing the tickets go up, the prices for beer,
access,
but that's not gonna stop us from going next year. So we'll be out there in Tempe, spring training 2021. You can book it. So that is another edition, as I get his music queued up, of the Curators Chronicles.
Let's go, batter up. We're taking the afternoon off. It's a beautiful day for a ball game, too.
So obviously, like we mentioned earlier, the Angels are heading up to Seattle to play the Mariners, and this could be a really good matchup because the Mariners are doing really good. They're kind of slowed down a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. And I was lucky enough to catch up with 1/3 of the Sunday League, the podcast, DH. He's a Seattle Mariners fan, so I brought him on to talk Seattle Mariners because obviously he's going to know a lot more than I would just reading on him for like 24 hours. So he's our special guest for previewing the Seattle Mariners, and here's the interview. To talk Seattle Mariners, Angels open up a 3-game series this weekend, is DH, 1/3 of the Sunday League, the podcast trio. Obviously repping the Ken Griffey hat, love it, and the Sunday League podcast shirt. But you're a Seattle Mariners fan out of the three of you, so I figured you were the perfect guy to have on with this series coming up. How you doing?
Dude, man, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. An honor, honestly, even though you guys are rivals.
Right, there you go.
But hey, man, I was happy to do it, and anytime I get a chance to talk Mariners, then I'm all for it. Shout out to you guys, man, and shout out to all those Angels fans out there. I mean, I'm always at Angel Stadium, being a SoCal guy myself.
Right.
And it's nothing but fun. Fun rivalry. I don't even know if the Mariners have a rivalry with the Angels. Do you consider it a rivalry at all?
I honestly would consider. And it's funny, too, because Rube, another guy that's on the podcast with you, is a Dodger fan. And I would actually even consider Seattle more of a rival than the Dodgers, just because of strictly the fact that they play more. It means more in division than the Dodgers. Dodgers is like a fan. Dodger Angels is more of a fan rivalry, I believe, than an actual on-the-field rivalry. But
like a baseball rivalry,
yeah, if I had to rank the Angels rivalry, I would probably say, because of everything that happened, probably Houston, even though the Houston hasn't been in the AL that long. But like Oakland's right up there. I think it's probably like one of their top rivals, just because it always seems like the Angels have to go through them, or the Oakland's trying to go through them. But yeah, definitely on the list, Seattle is, because like I mentioned, you play a team 16, 19 times or whatever, you're going to kind of just build that naturally and stuff like that. But
the Mariners haven't been very good for very long to have a rivalry with anybody, but this is the year.
Yes. Right. I'm sure you echo the voice of a lot of Mariners fans this year, and let's talk about them. Off to a hot start. I mean, they were in first place for a really long while until, obviously Oakland started heating up. What was working good for them? What is something that maybe even surprised you coming into the season?
The pitching staff, especially the bullpens, kind of really held it down. I figured the offense was going to struggle a little bit here and there. I mean, you're definitely going to get some offense out of Mitch Haniger, especially since he's fully healthy now and going back to hopefully his pre-2019 version. And Ty France is a guy that they picked up from San Diego, but it's not necessarily because he wasn't a good player in San Diego, but they just didn't have a spot for him. And considering that they signed Manny Machado to play third base, that was Ty France's position. And, they've tried putting him in different spots on the field, and they had a chance to pick up Austin Nola, our catcher, and they made a move for him. And so they gave us Ty France, and he's got a really solid bat. So just as a Mariners fan, because I follow that team, I knew Ty France was going to be a solid bat. But aside from him, aside from Haniger, and aside from Kyle Seager, it's been pretty inconsistent. So it's about what I expected from the offense, but the pitching staff, the bullpen, has been a really nice surprise. And we got a guy that you might be a little familiar with yourself by the name of Keenan Middleton.
Yep.
This guy's
know him very well.
Mid to upper 90s, doing really, really well for us. He's been a nice piece for us. And I mean, Kendall Graveman's another guy that we got, from Oakland, but a good guy that, throws heat at the back end of the bullpen. And Rafael Montero from the Rangers, another guy that throws heat. And, we're just taking all these little pieces from all the different teams in our division and putting together our own little AL West super bullpen. And so that's been working out real nice.
Yeah, and you mentioned Middleton, and obviously with the Angels, came up with the Angels. I think he kind of soured a little bit with the new regime that came in a couple of years ago, coming off Tommy John. So I honestly thought what he needed was a fresh start somewhere, and it being close to home, him being a Oregon guy playing up in Washington is probably exactly what he needed. So talking about starters and pitching, one of the acquisitions you guys got this offseason to come back to Seattle was Paxton, and obviously he's done. How is that pitching rotation looking as a whole with some of these injuries that are now popping up?
So, you kind of figured that the Big Maple was going to take a spot in that rotation, and you kind of plan for those types of things, hopefully, when you have that 6-man rotation. And so he goes down. All right, well, next man up, you got Nick Margevicius, who's kind of been a long man in the bullpen, and now you have him fill in that spot. But his first start, filling in for Big Maple, he goes down with shoulder injury. And so Mariners are going to stick with it. They're going to stick with the 6-man rotation. They believe it's the key to success. It's the key to get them out of the cellar in the AL West. And they've got some good, really nice pieces that they've gotten from various trades. Marco Gonzalez is somebody they got from the St. Louis Cardinals, and he's been holding down the top end of the rotation, opening day starter. You've also got Justin Dunn that you got from the New York Mets, along with Jared Kelenic when they traded Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz. He started today, is holding Houston down. In fact, Mariners still on top, bottom 8, 5-3. Anyway, Justin Dunn is a nice piece. They got Justice Sheffield from the Yankees. Get this, for James Paxton, who then end up getting him back.
It's like a Chapman thing.
Yeah, Justice Sheffield's been working out real nice. He's been a top prospect type of starter, and a lot of these guys that the Mariners have are those types of players. They're top prospects, and they're getting their shot with Seattle. This is the year that they bring in a lot of that young talent that they've had brewing in the minor leagues. Kelenic is another guy that they still have to bring up, and I think he's going to slot in real nice when it's time for him to come up. But as far as the rotation goes, for now, it's going to be that 6-man rotation. And the series starts on Friday.
Correct.
And the way that I kind of had it set up is just kind of looking at their normal rotation. First guy you would expect to see would be Chris Flexon. And Flexon's a guy they got from Korea, or when he was pitching in Korea in the KBO. So now he just came back to the States and shut the Red Sox down for a solid 7 innings of 1-run ball. I want to say that was on Saturday. And then you'll probably see on Saturday, when the Mariners play the Angels on Saturday, you're going to see either Robert Duggar or LJ Newsome. Robert Duggar is a guy they called up from the minor leagues, but he's a bit unproven. He's somebody he's been a starter in the minors, and he's kind of come up and filled a long man spot in the bullpen. So he might be the starter for Saturday, or LJ Newsome, who threw 6 shutout innings out of the bullpen against the Red Sox.
Yeah, so that might be the high scoring game with Griffin Canning going on Saturday, and he's had troubles getting out the first couple innings. It seems like with him, he might have a hard first inning, but if he can get through those first 2 innings, then he settles down. But it's just getting through those first couple innings that have really hurt him so far this year. And then you have Andrew Heaney going on Friday, has turned around the last 3 starts, and ever since moving to the first base side of the rubber as a lefty, he's able now to kind of control his fastball a little bit better and get in on batters' hands, and he's kind of turned the page. And so on Sunday, the getaway game for you guys and us, Dylan Bundy, the Angels, frontline starter, opening day starter, has been able to hold it down this season, except for one bad start, and he will probably be going up against.
He is probably going to go up against Justice Sheffield on Sunday. So if it works out, I think the only question mark is going to be Saturday, and I think it's probably going to be LJ Newsome, in my opinion. He threw 2 innings against the Red Sox on Thursday, and then on Friday. Threw another 4 innings against the Red Sox on Sunday. So he would be lined up to be starting on 6 days of rest, or on the 6th day, actually, if they end up going with him. So he's somebody to look out for. But again, with Seattle, their offense, it doesn't matter who you're throwing up there. You just got to shut down Haniger, France, and Seager.
Those are 3 guys that are
those are the 3 guys. Yep. And Kyle Lewis is coming back from his injury, and he still hasn't caught fire just yet. Eventually he will. But yeah, you get through those guys right now. Those are the main ones that are holding down our lineup.
Yeah, and Seattle just seems to have a lot of these young guys, if you heard about for a while, especially being in the AL West, you kind of hear about, and you see a lot of the minor league guys playing against the Angels minor league guys, especially here in Southern California. And now you're starting to see them pop up or getting on the brink of popping up. Long-term future for these guys, obviously trades and all that stuff can happen at any point. And so some of these guys obviously might not even break in with the Seattle Mariners, but kind of, how do you see them, 2 years from now, 3 years from now?
Oh, well, I mean, you got Jared Kelly, like I was saying, who's still in the minor leagues. And I think he's somebody that you would see coming up at some point this year, probably, if not by September, then probably before September. Another guy that you have is their catcher, Cal Raleigh, who's already known for his defense, and his bat's starting to come around a little bit. So I think with those guys right there, their lineup is going to be in good hands. And even if they keep Mitch Haniger, Mitch Haniger is somebody that they talked about how if the Mariners struggle, then he's somebody that they could trade for more prospects down the road. But I think he's somebody that, you would want to build around. And I don't want to see him go as a Mariners fan, but I understand the business side of things like that. But he's somebody that I think Mariners would be smart to keep around. And if they're doing really well, then by the All-Star break or by the trading deadline, then I see them making pieces or making moves to add pieces, not to subtract. As far as their start, I don't know if it's sustainable right now. I see a lot of good things out of their pitching, but aside from the offense, those 3 guys that I mentioned earlier, Haniger, France, and Seager, they're going to be your no-brainers. Kyle Lewis had a really good year last year, won the American League Rookie of the Year, but it was a shortened season, right?
Right.
How much clout do we put on that? And so I want to see him in a full year and see what happens. But I mean, personally, I picked the Mariners to make the playoffs as a wild card team.
Ooh, okay.
The Angels, I see them coming in 3rd, but maybe that's bias. Maybe that's just my bias. But I mean, look, the Angels got to do something about their pitching. You're last in the AL and the ERA, and their offense is on fire. Though you guys are leading the American League in all kinds of offensive categories.
And Rendon's not even really Rendon yet. He's coming back from injury, and he just broke out of a 1 for. I think he was 0 for 16 before he hit a double or RBI single today. What are we at? Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. So that's still not even firing on all cylinders yet. But yeah, the pitching is definitely going to be the issue, I think, throughout the year. Like I mentioned before, Bundy has been able to hold it down. You're thinking now that Haney has found something because he's put 3 starts together that have been really respectable. But after that, Cobb, not great today at all. You have Griffin Canning, that's, still kind of a work in progress. You have Jose Quintana, that's, again, another roller coaster. You have Shohei, which is great. Everyone loves it. But at the end of the day, you're hoping he stays healthy. But because he can play lights out just as much as anybody in the major leagues. He has great stuff. It's just, he pitched a couple days ago, and then the word is that he kind of had a hot spot, forming on his hand, having the blister issue again. So, yeah, I think that's definitely the Angels' kind of question mark. It's the pitching and even some parts of the bullpen also, especially that middle part. Back end, not so much, but that middle part is something to kind of watch out for sure.
Well, I tell you, if it stays this way, where Angels are in contention, Seattle's in contention, I definitely see both our teams making ads before the trading deadline. One guy that's out there that a lot of people have been talking about, if his team continues to struggle, is Max Scherzer. Don't see the Mariners going after somebody like him, but I definitely see the Angels making a move. What do you think of your chances? Say you guys are still in contention of adding somebody like Max Scherzer.
I think they'll add somebody. I think Matt Scherzer is going to be a hot name by a lot of teams. And again, it's going to come down to one of those kind of with trades, especially when Snell was kind of the hot name this offseason. It was about what you can get for him. And then when you put the Angels farm system and prospects that they have to offer compared to a super farm system like San Diego, you're never going to get Snell. And it's the same thing with Scherzer. Is if another team with a better farm system really, really wants him, it's not going to matter what the Angels put up to get him, because they're not going to be able to compete. Joe Adele might be untouchable. Brandon Marsh, not untouchable, but pretty close. You're seeing what Chris Rodriguez can do right now in the majors. He's, I'm guessing, going to be untouchable after performance today. Reed Detmers is again one of those guys that's pretty close. But outside of that, you have some guys, but it's high floor or low floor, high ceiling. Like they can be all-star type of guys, but they're young, athletic, and they need one or two things that come around to do that. And it's a matter of will it. So I don't know if teams are willing to take that risk quite yet when these guys are still 19, 20, 21 years old. So if there's not a lot out there, which I doubt there will be. I mean, I'm sure everyone's going to want someone like a Scherzer. But if the Angels are in it, they got to hope that someone that is also in on it doesn't have a better farm system, because, the Angels farm system isn't exactly loaded like some of these other teams are.
No, but I tell you what, your wallet is. Your team wallet is pretty loaded.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you can take on just about anybody's salary if it's guaranteed.
And if it comes down to a salary dump, then yes. If it comes back to we want prospects, then no. So it's going to kind of depend on what Washington does. Are they more worried about getting his money off the books, or are they more worried about getting prospects in return? So that's something I don't know how Washington's financials are, but if they just want a salary dump, then yes, we can do that. Not an issue. If they want, we'll hold on to 50% of the salary but we want prospects kind of deal, then it's like, that's where it kind of gets kind of sketchy, because I don't know if we have the prospects to pull it off.
Well, one of the biggest differences I think between our teams right now is I think the window, like the direction the window is going. And from my perspective, I see the Angels window slightly closing, just slowly. Maybe because Trout is getting older. Mm-hmm. You got Pujols, who's in the last year of his contract. Is it the last year?
Yep, last year.
And you got Justin Upton, who's still a solid player, but is he the same Justin Upton that he was back? And so it's on top of that, the pitching is a big question mark. So I see it closing a little bit, whereas the Mariners feels like their window is starting to open up just a tiny bit more, considering the reinforcements that they've got in the minor leagues. There's pitching galore for the Mariners in the minor leagues, and so that's the difference right there. I don't see the Mariners being as aggressive at the trading deadline, but I think maybe somebody who's not quite top dollar type of guy. They might go after somebody who can help out maybe the offense. Really, that's the biggest thing that I see making, as far as a trade going down, helping us out, is somebody that can help the offense.
Yeah, the window's kind of weird for the Angels, because like right now I think it is kind of on the downslope just a little bit. But like you mentioned, Pujols is done at the end of this year. That money comes off the book. Upton's done in 2 years. That money comes off the books. And honestly, the only guys that they are truly committed to after 2022 would be now Fletcher, Trout, Rendon, and I think Ohtani will be in his last year of his deal, and then he'll be in arbitration. But those are the only guys they're committed to that's on the team right now. So there's a lot of flexibility they can make, trades, moves. But the one thing that, like I mentioned before, it's a lot of high risk, high reward kind of prospects right now. Because if there's probably like 4 or 5 I can think off the top of my head that are high risk, high reward. If 3 of those hit, and that includes Reed Detmers as one of them as a pitching, and you have Chris Rodriguez, which you think is going to hit because you see what he's been doing, those 2 guys, can be the solid 2s and 3s or even 1s for a rotation. Kind of you can build around it. But again, it's like with the Mariners, I think a lot more is known from their prospects. And I think that's why they have a better ranking on, wherever you look, MLB.com, Pipeline, or Fangraphs or whatever. I think that's why they have a better farm system rating, is because their questions are a lot more known than the Angels. Angels have a ton of questions. And if, like I said, if 3 or 4 of those guys hit, or if Brandon Marsh isn't a superstar, but is a, 3-time, 4-time type of all-star throughout a career, that will solidify that outfield spot once Upton leaves, and Joe Adele can be even half of what people expect him to be. That solidifies your outfield for the next, 7 years, 8 years. So yeah, I think that with the window, it's closing right now just because there's a lot of stuff the Angels don't know yet about their prospects. But if they, come through, that window will open back up again with Trout being the Tim Salmon type when they won the 0-2. Tim Salmon wasn't Tim Salmon when they won. He wasn't the guy that was leading the team in WAR every year and it was the face of the team. He was the older guy that was there to talk to the younger guys. And I can very easily see Trout being that type of player. Yeah, it's going to suck to see him win when he's like 35, 36. But if he's able to mentor some of these young kids and they're able to finally get a team around him, if he wins it then, I'll take it. If he wins it now, I'll take it. But as long as he wins one, I think that's the goal. For me, personally, he doesn't need to be the reason why they win as long as he's on the team that wins.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I tell you what, though, there's nothing that will bust open that window of opportunity for the Angels more than a top-end starter to pair with Ohtani up at the front, on the top 1 and 2, and the lineup, the way that you guys have it set up. I mean, honestly, it really is one of the best, if not the best lineup in the American League, aside from maybe the Red Sox and the White Sox, or even the Astros. Maybe people could still argue the Astros, but I mean, yeah, they really do. And so you get just one, maybe even two if you're lucky, top-end starters. Yeah, that's a dangerous team right there.
I was saying, you signed a top-end starter, but then, like I mentioned, you see Chris Rodriguez grow. You see Reed Detmer mature to where they're like a solid 2-3, and then maybe they do take that mantle in 4 years as that number one. But yeah, you get that number one starter next year, next offseason or whatever, trade deadline. Yeah, it changes a lot. It changes a lot.
Really
and then, so that's a kind of a wait and see with the Angels fans, which I know as Angel fans, we've heard that it seems like forever, the wait and see. But DH, I want
to talk about Angels fans that have heard wait and see. You wait until you talk to Mariners fans. Let me just put it to you in perspective. I've been a Mariners fan since I started watching baseball in 1996, and we had some solid teams that year. 2001 was the last time we made the playoffs. You know about how long that's been.
You put it that way, you're right. We have a World Series in that time frame, so it's all good.
Yep, you sure do, man. I'll tell you what, though. But yes, you're right. Wait and see. It's man, nothing will teach you patience more than being a Mariners fan. That's for sure.
DH, I want to thank you again for jumping on Sunday League, the podcast. Give these guys where they can find you guys, what your podcast is about, because it's not like this podcast where we focus strictly on the Angel stuff, but you guys touch on everything through baseball, and you guys have a wide diversity of fandom in that threesome you have over there with you, Rube, and Boski. So talk a little bit about your podcast.
Sure. Yeah, you said that right. No, man. Yeah, we Sunday League, the podcast. We just we're guys that got met in the Sunday leagues. Recreational men's baseball leagues, and Boski's a Red Sox fan, Rube's Dodgers fan. I'm the Mariners fan, and we just have a lot of fun on our podcast. We talk about everything baseball, but in a very debaucherous way. So be warned. But yeah, that's the bulk of what we're about. We love baseball. We got the podcast, the World Pod Classic going on, our fantasy league, which you are a part of. Thank you.
I wasn't going to bring up your guys' record because I looked it up before the podcast.
No, you don't want to look at that.
It's early. Remember, it's early. It's early in fantasy. It's early in the season.
Yeah, man. But we're just a bunch of baseball knuckleheads, and we got Sunday League, the podcast. You can catch us on the Instagram on Sunday League Podcast. We got a Twitter. We don't really use a Twitter, but check out the YouTube. We got a lot of videos on YouTube as well. And we just try to keep it loose. So that's what we're about. And I want to thank you for having me on your podcast. Shout out to you guys and Angels fans and Angel Stadium for just being the stadium in the state that I live in. And for being respectful when I wear my Mariners gear.
I want to say, not having to go to Dodger Stadium.
Not beating my ass down to the ground. Thank you guys, because again, we don't have very many rivals, considering that we haven't been very good for very long. But like I said, this is the year. So
this is the year. Awesome.
Yeah, man. So thank you. Shout out to you, and shout out Johnny, man. Big ups to Johnny and to you guys and your podcast and everything that you guys did from the very beginning. We're big fans at Sunday League, the podcast.
And I want to thank DH again as I pull this up. DH again for jumping on and talking Seattle Mariners. Obviously, he knows a lot more than either one of us can even think about, because we're all wrapped up in Angels, and he's actually the one out there like reading up on Seattle and seeing what it's going to do. And he actually nailed the baseball the pitching projections, so you got that going for him. So.
Yeah, he knows his stuff, man.
Yeah, exactly. And then
seems like a super cool dude. I know they got a pretty charismatic podcast out there going back and forth. I think you described it as debaucherous.
Yeah,
I think they had a parental advisory, explicit lyrics kind of thing that you saw from like the late 90s.
Right, in your rap albums.
So I think I want to make sure I download that and listen to it a little bit more now.
Yeah, exactly. So you can find Sunny Lead the podcast anywhere you find this podcast. Definitely check them out. It's more, like I mentioned, more of a baseball type of podcast than a team specific podcast. So it's always good to mix in one of those type of podcasts. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Again, follow us on our social media, Halo_Haven on our Twitter, Instagram, Halo Haven on Facebook. Rate, review, subscribe on our iOS or Apple Podcasts, and then also subscribe on Spotify. We're all over the place. And it's so far so good for Angels. We're right in it, and we'll see how this next week goes. Our next podcast will be Sunday night. I'm gonna try to put one together from a new location. We'll see how that goes.
You're not gonna disclose that location?
Maybe when I do the podcast, I got to see how the hotel Wi-Fi is first. It might be a audio only podcast. I got to see when I get there. But
it's definitely from abroad.
We're still in the 50 states, just not in this state.
For sure.
So definitely check us out Sunday night. I'll be there reviewing the Seattle series, and hopefully, like this one, we're able to get 2 out of 3 against Seattle and work our way up through the standings, because Oakland seems to be kind of cooling down. Seattle seems to be cooling down, and hopefully with all the guys getting back, getting healthy, Angels can make a little bit of a run and continue to be contenders. So again, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for everyone for listening. We really appreciate it. Again, tell a friend, help us spread the word. I am Dan Garcia.
I'm the curator.
And this has been another edition of the All Angels Podcast.